Hey everybody, this is Perch, and I want to talk about what I think is my favorite comic. It's been a while. I've been asked, and I've got a lot of opinions. I don't really want to just pick one. There's plenty of stuff I like. Legion of Superheroes, obviously, is a huge one. X-Men. I have a long, great love for that series, even if I don't like what's going on right now. Definitely, I love the legacy of it. But there's tons. I was a big fan of Y the Last Man. I like the Sandman series. I like Doom Patrol better. I like Shade better than that. I've liked big arcs in the Avengers from time to time. I like Zod. There's tons of things I love in comics. I love the work of Rumiko Takahashi, but pound for pound, if you're talking about the most amount of comics and the kinds that pull most of my heart and the ones that here's what finally got me to kind of answer the question: if I could give one comic and only one comic, one series to my kids to kind of pass on, what would that comic be? And it doesn't need to be kid based. It could be something that they read when they're older. So I wasn't putting that gauge on it. But I finally came down to the obvious choice, and that's One Piece. So I've talked One Piece before, and it's one that I have to just more aggressively recommend to people. It is an amazing series. It's rich. There's so much content. The kind of the characters, the developments, the world building that goes on with One Piece is incredible. And here's the part that I really want to sell you hard on. If you pick up One Piece today, start now, you are going to be reading for years. It's first of all, the comic is still going. The manga is still chugging along, and it is absolutely still happening. And there's just so much. There's so much to read. But there's been people resistant to One Piece, kind of on two fronts. I can't help with one, but I can help with the other. The first is just a general resistance to manga in general and the art style. And the one thing I will say is that if you are turned off by certain aspects of manga, maybe the way the characters are drawn, the kind of cartoonish aspect of it, again, One Piece does some really nice detailed work that is maybe not typical of a lot of your kind of more cartoonish manga. There's definitely some complexity to it that you might not get from the promo images. The promo images are often more cartoonish than the actual comic. And the other factor actually plays into the second reason that I want to get you past. And that is many people pick up One Piece and it loses them in the first kind of couple chapters. And this is where, having thought about it quite a bit, you have to commit to One Piece to get yourself to basically kind of I think the fifth storyline or the fifth arc, which is Arlong Park. I think you have to get yourself to Arlong Park, and I'm going to explain why here in a moment. Because first off, the art style matures quite a bit during that first couple arcs. It changes a decent amount, and it gets a little less cartoonish and more detailed. So if you pick it up right away, the first couple chapters are pretty simplistic. You're looking at a very early version. It advances really quickly, so you just need to kind of push through it. Then the other part is even the storytelling is a little bit just kind of charming, and you might say, it's more kid-like in the first couple chapters. So let me kind of go into back a little bit. So the first main arc is called the East Blue Saga. And this is where they're kind of feeling their way out. They're introducing the core people of the cast, which is basically Luffy, the pirate, Nami, the navigator, Zoro, the fighter, and Usopp, the sniper, and Sanji, the cook and pervert. And anyway, those characters, you're really kind of learning about them. And what you come to realize later is that Luffy, the charm of his character is his kind of naiveness, his childlike look at the world. And so the first couple arcs in the East Blue Saga, the Romance Stone arc and Orange Town arc in particular, they are very childlike. They are very, it is very young. We're meeting Zoro, we're meeting Nami a bit, we're meeting Luffy, and it's very light. And that's kind of by intention, because we're learning about Luffy's personality, although we don't completely realize it. When you get into the Baratie arc or the Surf Village arc, you start to bring in more of the superpowered elements, because this is another thing people don't quite understand about either the anime or the manga, is that this is a superhero story. Characters can eat this devil fruit and they get superhero powers, and they do, even though it appears or calls itself a kind of a pirate adventure, there's superpowers running around, and people can turn themselves into sand and other things. But the thing that you got to get through in these first couple arcs is this understanding that you're learning about the core of the character. And in the Romance Dawn arc and the Orange Town arc, you're meeting Zoro, you're meeting Nami, you're meeting Luffy. You get to the Bratti arc, and you are meeting Sanji for the first time. And there you notice, first of all, you get a slight kind of click where the characters are really starting to come into their own. You're seeing the interplay behind them, and it takes you to the Arlong Park arc, which is this kind of in-depth look at Nami's past. But more importantly than that, you get first time the characters kind of snap to being very serious. They are taking the threat seriously. The threat is a serious threat. There may be, people may be killed in this thing. Other people are getting killed. And you're finally able to kind of really get a sense of the drama involved. And from there, it blows out. You get into the Alabasta Saga, and that is where you start to introduce more characters. I mean, the entire kind of battle with Crocodile and some of these characters, you really get the full scope of everything that's going on. By the time you're in, past Arlong, where I think it really hooks you, into Alabasta and the Sky Island and Water 7, these are big giant storylines. By this point, you're in love with the series, and you're being introduced to more characters. You get Vivi, you get Robin, you get Chopper, you get these kind of major threats. You start to see the huge part of the world building with the world government and kind of their kind of evil schemes and just all these different assassins guilds and everything else. And it no longer, by the time you get to Alabasta, you would laugh in somebody if they called it a simplistic or childlike story. It's neither of those things. It's definitely an adventure story at that point, with real stakes, people, doing major things. And it's a story, and this is why I have to recommend it, is the more you read, the more you watch, the more it builds on itself. You think Chris Claremont kind of spinning plates of different subplots and things in X-Men were big. This puts that to shame. It is so many different arcs. It's so many different things to look at, and groups and people that go away for a while and then come back. It is an immense amount of material. And you get into this very kind of roller coaster of a ride, which is the Summit War Saga, which is the Sabaody Archipelago arc, Impelled Down, Marineford, and Post of War. And I did a video just on that piece in particular. And that's some of the greatest storytelling, honestly, I've ever seen. And it just builds from there. A lot of people to bitch about the Dressrosa Saga and that kind of thing, but there's good stuff there. The Four Emperors Saga, the Wano country arc. Anyway, my point here is there are, at this point, more than 1,000 stories for you to read here. The anime is extremely faithful to the manga, so if you don't want to read the manga, go for the anime. It is an incredible story, and so people ask me my favorite character in One Piece. Well, I mean, it's hard to pick just one. There's so many. They're all charming in their own ways, and by the time the Oda and kind of what he does in creating this series, one of the most magical parts of it is that he puts in the work to get you to care about the complexity of these characters. They're very true to themselves, and a character building moment 500 issues earlier comes into play, years later. So this is definitely one. Go for it, but that's my comment to you, is stick with it, because when you first start this story, you're going to say, I don't get it. It seems very tiny. It seems very simple. It seems like a very kind of childlike story that I can't get into this, but push through. I promise, if I can say one thing to everybody, I promise, push through, and you will be rewarded with just so much complexity. It's really one of the best comics, manga out there. It's the GOAT for sure. Lots of great stuff. Lots of stuff. Moments and comics. Individual comics I've enjoyed more. But if we're talking about a series, pound for pound, this is it. So hopefully you check it out. Let me know your thoughts if you love it, you hate it, if you have the same kind of impression that I got, where it just dawned on me. Maybe because I don't know how I was going through it. Maybe it was different, but it can be a struggle to get through the first couple chapters if you're expecting one thing and you're getting another thing. And especially if you heard big things about how amazing this story is, you read the first couple chapters, like, I'm not getting it. But trust me, stick with it. Get to the at least read through it to the Arlong Park arc, and if by the conclusion of that storyline, which is not far, that's not deep into the story, if by there you're not entirely hooked, I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, thanks for listening.